Today we'll be combining lavender syrup, lime, and rosemary and turning that into ice cream. So I'm thinking for the game plan for this, I'm going to go over to the stove and add the lavender syrup with the milk and our other dry ingredients. I will also be adding the rosemary. Now this is ground up because that will incorporate better. Otherwise the sprigs or larger chunks of rosemary would not mix well with this ice cream. And then after that, I will add the lime juice. I'm not going to add it while it's on the stove because that runs the risk of making the milk curdle. And so I'll want to wait for it to cool down and then I'll add this in the bowl back at this station. So yeah, I am really interested to try this. I want the lavender and lime to be the hero flavors. So I'm calling this the lavender lime with rosemary. So rosemary, I want it to be very subtle. The one thing that I run the risk with is these are all strong flavors. And so I need to make sure I get the proportions just right. This is gonna be a very strong flavor. So there, already smell it. All right, here we go. Ooh, yeah, that's a lot of rosemary. Kind of bitter to start with, but then it's more the aftertaste is what you're wanting. And so that's what I'm wanting to incorporate in this ice cream. So yeah, very little of that. I'm thinking maybe a teaspoon, maybe less. All right, next up is the lavender syrup. This is from one of my friends who lives on the lavender farm. So this is homemade lavender syrup. Super excited to try it. Smells amazing. Ooh, that's really good. It's very sweet, it's very sweet, which makes sense because it's a syrup. So I do have to keep that in mind when adding the sugars to this. The lavender taste is subtle, but you don't want it to be overpowering. I'm thinking a tablespoon of that, and then I might do a taste test before adding the lime to see how it is, because I might have to add more of that potentially. But we'll start with a tablespoon and go from there. So yeah, let's go ahead and head over to the stove and get cooking. All right, we are now at the stove. Let's add our cup of milk. All right, next we're gonna add our tablespoon of syrup. And if you're wanting the recipe for this, it'll be down in the description below. All right, next we're gonna add our dry ingredients, which is gonna be sugar and guar gum to help thicken it. All right, I made an audible and I'm gonna do half a teaspoon of the rosemary. All right, so it's been a few minutes of letting this kind of sit here and steep, and already it's very aromatic, smells delicious. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and take this off the stove, let it cool for a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. All right, this should be nice and cooled off now. It's smelling fantastic right now, but I still need to add the lime. So I'm gonna pour it in here. Yeah, despite having two strong flavors in there already, it's not a strong scent, but what I am smelling is smelling really good together. I think let's go ahead and give this a small taste test before adding the lime, because this part's gonna be very important we don't mess it up or it could ruin the rest of the ice cream. Oh yeah, that's tasting really good. Very strong on the lavender, but not in a bad way. I am getting a little bit of the rosemary, mostly because I'm getting the ground up parts of the rosemary right now. But in the ice cream, this should be blended up a little bit more. Texture won't be as obvious as it is right now. That looks about half. And just from that, I can already smell the lime. So we're gonna do another taste test and see how that changed the flavor. Oh, that actually, despite the initial smell, which made it seem like it was gonna overpower this, probably could go for the other half tablespoon. I think that's probably the right amount. And yeah, that's pairing really well with the lavender, kind of like a lavender limeade, and then there's rosemary in there. All right, let's go over another taste. I think you can see it's kind of curdled a little bit right there. Not as bad, but that's what I was trying to avoid. And so if this was on the stove, I think it would have been worse. Yeah, that's it right there. That's super good. I'm getting the lavender, and then the lime adds this little bit of kick to it, and then you get the rosemary afterwards. So I think we're ready to go. I think this is ready to pour. All right, that's what that looks like right there. Looks really good. I'm really excited to see what this looks like once it freezes. I think a lot of the rosemary is gonna float to the top, but once this is blended up in ice cream, it should disperse and not be quite as obvious and look more like a vanilla bean ice cream or something. I think let's go ahead and put it in the freezer and check on it tomorrow. Okay, it is the next day. Let's see how this turned out. All right, yeah, that definitely got a little bit darker as expected. Smell-wise, I'm getting, obviously, lavender, and then surprisingly, I'm not really getting the lime. Rosemary is the next kind of smell I'm getting. But I think once we whip this up, that's going to change. Currently, I'm calling this ice cream lavender lime with rosemary, but as we've been doing for the last couple of videos, if you have a creative name idea, I'd love to hear that in the comments below. So yeah, let's go ahead and blend this up and get to tasting it. All right, this is looking pretty dang good. Now, funny enough, this actually looks like how I thought the ranch ice cream would look like that we made a while back. Luckily though, it looks like it'll be much better than that. I wish you could smell this. This smells incredible. I feel like I can get a little bit more of the lime. It just smells like I'm walking into kind of like a tea shop. On the surface, it appears as if we use the right proportions for each of our ingredients. So I'm really excited to try this. All right. Seems to be scooping pretty well. Yeah, it definitely has that soft serve consistency. And to top this off, I'll just sprinkle a little bit of rosemary on top. All right, that's what that looks like. It's looking pretty dang good. Look-wise, this looks like a normal ice cream, but there's only one thing left to do, and that's to taste this. So let's dig in for a bite. Bon appetit.
Just because we're drinking lavender Dreamtime tea?
Lavender Dreamtime? Ah, yes, please.
That's a 10.
Let's go. That is so good. First things first, you get the really strong lavender flavor, but because it's a lavender syrup and not the actual just lavender, it's just sweet lavender, so you don't have to worry about it overpowering everything else. Then surprisingly, the next flavor I get is actually rosemary, and then I think I get a hint of lime. I feel like the lime melds really well with the lavender. It almost feels like there isn't lime in here, even though we know there is lime in here and I can taste it subtly. So I would say it needs probably a little bit more lime. These flavors really mesh together well. And really my only complaint, other than like the lime seems a little bit lost, is I do think I used just a smidge too much rosemary. I would say maybe a quarter teaspoon was probably the right amount. Yeah, it's just so smooth. The flavor isn't overpowering, it's strong. Like, you know, as soon as you have this, you're like, this is lavender with something else. I think kind of the aftertaste is where you get that rosemary in. I'm honestly surprised nothing like this exists, or at least in my research, nothing like this exists, because this is a must try. So because of all of that, I'm gonna give the lavender lime with rosemary a 5 out of 5 scoops. I could maybe move it down to like a 4.75, but this is so good that I'm willing to overlook the lime getting lost and the rosemary being it, because this is nitpicking right here. I highly recommend you try this. I would say though, using lavender syrup over using actual lavender and steeping it in there is probably the better way to go. It's a lot easier, and that way if you add too much, it's not going to ruin the overall thing. Lavender, lime, and rosemary. You wouldn't think they go together, but dang, they work so well as an ice cream. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to watch me make weird ice cream flavors. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy sharing it with you guys. And if you enjoy that too, feel free to like this video and subscribe so you can see when I upload next, which is every Sunday. And if you have any ideas for future flavors of ice cream you want me to try, feel free to leave those in the comments below. And if you want the recipe that I use in this episode, that'll be in the description below. Again, thank you for watching and have a great day.